It is Saturday morning and time for Saturday morning cartoons. I don't know how cartoony today's little talk will be. Uh, a good friend of ours and a class member of many years from uh, Monday Night Magic class is stopping by this morning in just a few minutes with her daughter to pay us a visit here. We don't get many visitors since we moved to Sacramento, and it'll be a joy to see her. Anyway, uh, I tomorrow is Mother's Day, and I'll talk about mothers and give my little Mother's Day message because I live with one, and one gave birth to me, so I have some experience of mothers, but can't say that I've been one, at least not in this incarnation. But this morning I want to talk just a little bit or share something that I've written about my about my father. And in the book Low Magic, I have a chapter called Family Secrets, and it's in places it's rather dark uh, because probably not unlike all of us, there is much darkness and craziness in our family background. That I mean, there are many things that go into making you and I. And I talk about my father's mother's mother, uh, who was the wife of a very famous private investigator in England in the Victorian age. He was well, I've talked to you about him before. Uh, but anyway, his wife, uh, he was married and had children, including my grandmother. And but she was batshit crazy, at least according to my grandmother and what my grandmother told my mother on her deathbed. Not my mother's deathbed, but on her deathbed, cautioning her not to have children because of the curse of her mother, of the bad blood, the evilness that bubbled away in the genes. And she said, "Don't have children." Well, one of those children was me, okay, and my brother. And of course, Mom ignored that, and I'm happy she did. But anyway, I think the curse certainly skipped my father, who was just a very, he may have been a Scorpio and a secret brooding kind of dark, sexy guy, but he was the most dear soul on earth, and he had very loving and a very noble character. But and I want to talk about some magic secrets that he called them magic secrets too. And he wasn't a magician. Please don't get me wrong. He was agnostic, rationalist, uh, uh, Darwinist, logical guy. Uh, but he had this mystical side to him. Uh, he once told us that it is unhealthy, mentally unhealthy, to not have at least one or two small superstitions. He was kind of superstitious that way. And there were household superstitions like spilling salt. Throw it over your left shoulder if you spill salt. He would never allow us to open an umbrella in the house. Or allow, or when a wild bird flew into the house, things like that. But 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 he would give me secrets, small, everyday secrets, and he called them secrets. And he said, "Don't. This is a secret. Don't tell anybody. Don't tell your mother. Don't tell your brother. This is a secret to do this, or a secret to mastering this, or a secret to mastering that." And I'm going to read a little bit about that because I moved to do that today. I must confess that at times I can be possessed by a disturbing, dark, hateful nature. This is happening a lot lately, especially when I allow myself to look at the news and what's going on. When I perceive that I've been wronged, when someone cuts me off on the freeway, when I hear of or observe mistreatment of other people or animals or my country or my planet, I become so overwhelmed with the most monstrous, blood-curdling images of what I would do to such people if they were at my mercy in some fantasy torture chamber, that I have to use every weapon in my mystical arsenal to force myself to calm sanity. At times like this, I'm mindful of a great-grandmother who poisoned people's pets and delighted in the news of miscarriages. For all appearances, this curse skipped my father. In fact, my father was blessed with the most kind and noble character. It was obvious he stayed married to our mother, my mom, for the welfare and safety of Mark and me. His spirituality was centered upon a simple belief in a generic supreme being. After all, he was a Freemason. And he would always say that whenever Mom would try to get him to commit to saying he believed in God, his answer was, "Of course, I'm a Freemason. I have to believe in God." And that never satisfied her, okay? Uh, he believed in a generic supreme being and in the fundamental goodness of human beings. He took time to instill in his sons a confidence that we could do anything we put our minds to. He taught us the magic of dreams and imagination, and that it was possible to work to make our dreams come true. Like a good Scorpio Freemason, he taught us by means of magical secrets. So now, after you've patiently endured my ponderous Freudian excursions into my mother's sorcery, I finally come to the true family secrets the title of this chapter initially promised you. Dad's library contained a number of Masonic books. many illustrated with exotic mystical symbols. When my brother and I asked what they meant, he would only tease us by saying, "It's a secret. If you want, when you grow up, you can try to join the Masons and find out." Now, I've got to add here, after years of personal experience with the craft and knowledge of my father, uh, he did not belong to a Masonic lodge. That it's he did belong to a lodge, Signal Lodge in California, which is taken over by the lodge I would join 50 years later. But he didn't learn any esoteric things in the Masons. He was a 32nd degree Scottish Rite Mason, and he heard the handful of degree lectures that mention Kabbalah and mention the mystical interpretations of things, but nobody studied it. Nobody. He didn't have Manly Hall's Secret Teachings of All Ages or things like that. He had Albert Pike's Morals and Dogma, and I doubt that he studied it very, very deeply. But Masonry has a magic even for those who do not care about that end or under the surface magical nature of the craft. And that's okay, because Masonry's a big... But anyway, he would tease us and say it's secret, and indeed it was. He gently instilled in us both an awe and respect for secret knowledge. So when I was faced with the normal problems of growing up, I could go to Dad and he would give me a magic, quote, secret, unquote, to dealing with them. Isn't that ingenious? He just didn't give advice. He said, "I'm going to give you a magic secret. This is what you do." Okay. Instantly, that gave his advice power in my mind. Supernatural power in my mind. And obviously, I've never forgotten it. Okay. These were secrets not to be shared with anyone. Not Mom, not my brother, no one. My brother and I were unaware at the time that the other was also getting his own set of secrets from Dad. Years after his death, we compared notes and discovered that while similar, each of our secrets had been uniquely composed. It's been many years since Dad passed away. I don't think he'd mind if I'd share just a couple of the magical secrets that have helped me through the years. First secret it wasn't a secret per se. It was a commandment, a prime directive. Quote, "Your name is a magic name. Never change your name or the spelling of your name." Unquote. I don't know why he named me Lon Milo DuQuette. But one of my earliest memories of Dad was his insistence that he chose my name very carefully, and that it was a magic name, and that I was never to change it, never to change the spelling or the capitalization. You notice I capitalized the Q, which not every DuQuette does. I continue to obey the prime directive. Now I got a footnote. This is Kabbalists might observe that when the letters of my name are replaced with Hebrew letters, Lon Milo DuQuette enumerates to 444. And that my initials, LMD, spell the Hebrew letter Lamed, or L in Hebrew, Lamed. And So you've noticed that when I started to write professionally, I choose my full Lon Milo DuQuette, and my imaginary rabbi is Rabbi Lamed Ben, or son of Clifford. That's my father's name, Clifford. So I've exploited this magic secret. Second was the secret to falling asleep at night. This secret was the first bona fide secret Dad taught me. It was a two-part secret, very simple, but I could tell no one how I do it. First, I was to say my prayers. Now, Dad was practically an agnostic, and God to him was a generic cosmic abstraction. He did not encourage me to embrace Jesus, or the Old Testament Jehovah, or indeed anything other than a supremely good what it is. Nevertheless, it was important that before I go to sleep, I should acknowledge deity and thank it for the blessings of my life and ask for its continued protection, guidance, and blessing upon everything I do. He said the best prayer was one that just came out of my whole heart. But if I couldn't make up a prayer of my own, the Lord's Prayer, the Our Father which art in heaven, would do until, let's see, the Lord's Prayer would work until I got the hang of it. That's what he said, unquote. After saying my prayer, I was to relax and make up an imaginary adventure with me as the main character about anything that pleased me. The more fanciful, the better. There was only one rule to this part of the secret. Each night's adventure must include me doing at least one thing that it is impossible to do in real life. I had to think of a new impossible thing every night. I didn't know why, but I instinctively knew that this was one of the coolest things in the world you could encourage a kid to do. Third one was the secret to stopping nightmares. This was perhaps the most overtly magical of Dad's secrets. Like most kids, I had my share of childhood nightmares. One night when I was about 7 years old, I woke up screaming and crying. It seems a monster had just eaten my brother Mark, and that it had a hold of my foot. Without turning on the light, Dad came into my room and sat on the bed. He told me everything was okay and that everybody has bad dreams now and again. He encouraged me to lie back down, but I refused to put my head on the same spot on the pillow where the bad dream came from. Then he said the most curious thing. He says, "No, you want to go back into the dream and make the monster go away." He then told me that whenever I'm uncomfortable with the dream, I only had to pronounce my own name backwards. Null. And the monster or the problem would disappear. I trusted Dad, so I put my head back on the nightmare pillow and tried to recreate the dreaded moment. Sure enough, I was back in the dream with my foot in the monster's mouth. I spoke the magic word, null. The monster opened its mouth in fear and it dissolved into thin air. I was impressed with my new secret. I'd use it countless times. Furthermore, once I learned I could take control of my dreams, I learned I could go places in dreams and even live out some of those impossible feats of wonder. This is a skill that's very important to a magician. It's also very important to be able to resolve a problem in its own dimension, rather than trying to run away from it by escaping into another. And finally, the secret of learning, because I hated school. I hated school so much. And I'm sure I could be diagnosed with attention deficit disorder. Just look at me. Look how I just ramble. Yeah, class clown, you know. So he gave me this. And as I was walking to school, or later on, even while I was driving to school, or when I was riding my bike to school, I was to say this almost like a mantra. Even if I didn't mean it, I was to say it to myself out loud if I possibly could. The secret of learning was a simple affirmation I was to say under my breath as I walked to school each morning. The secret, quote, the secret of learning is to do the best I can at all times and always do a little better than I think I can. That's it. Secret of learning is to do the best I can at all times and always do a little bit better than I think I can. I wish I could say this made me a model student, but I cannot. I will say, however, that I can't begin to imagine how terribly bad a student I could have been without this bit of morning encouragement. I cannot escape the fact that both my parents were major factors in the equation that produced the magician, Lon Milo DuQuette. As Constance and I raised our son, Jean-Paul, I was very mindful of the object lessons I learned from my own parents' strengths and weaknesses. Our unique family secrets have been passed along to him, and now he shares his own way with his own son. And so it goes. How are things in your family? Okay, I know I've shared that with you before, but today I felt it was particularly necessary, at least for me, to revisit that. Okay, until tomorrow and Mother's Day, have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And now we've got guests coming. So until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself, be good to each other, and always try to do a little bit better than you think you can.